for the past 4 years. In fact, Ike has set a major milestone this year. He's the longest serving EM advisor. Let's give him a round of applause. Thanks for putting that before us, man. And I can think of no one better to continue guiding EM to a successful future. Please join me in welcoming Ike White.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you as well, Mayor Gary. I appreciate the continued partnership with ECA and with FCOG, not just in sponsoring a workshop like the one we're having here this week, and it's really great to see what I think is a record number of people here this week at the workshop, but it's also important that partnership that we have just on our mission on a day-to-day basis. I know, Mayor, you talked about some of the activities we've shared over the course of the last few months, but ECA really represents a big part of why we do what we do, and FCOG is the arm by which we actually do what we do. So you represent the folks who actually get out and do all of the hard work. So between these two organizations, I think it's fitting that we're all here together, collaborating and talking about how we move the cleanup mission forward. So as we were all reminded at the box office this summer, the EM mission really began with Oppenheimer and the birth of the Manhattan Project. It was a project that forever changed the course of history and ultimately led to the world's largest environmental cleanup program. And by the way, special thanks to my colleagues at Los Alamos and Los Alamos County. I got a chance to see the Oppenheimer movie in person at the screening at Los Alamos, which was an honor. And it's also good for all of us, I think, to occasionally remember the history associated with what we do. I spent a lot of my career, as many of you know, in NNSA, but the NNSA mission is very often focused on looking forward. The EM mission, by definition, is usually focused on the legacy of the past. And so I think an understanding and an appreciation of our history is really an important part of what it is that we do in the cleanup program. So appreciated the opportunity to see that at Los Alamos earlier this summer. So in recent years, I think we've reached an inflection point for our EM mission. We know what waste we have, and we know how to safely treat it. Most of our cleanup capabilities are in place, or they're nearly in place, and in some cases, after decades of planning and construction. We're acting on opportunities to enable continued success, and together, as I mentioned earlier with ECA and FCOG, we planned this workshop as an opportunity to discuss this next phase of our cleanup mission. We're looking forward to the future of EM and to the future of the communities that host our cleanup sites. As you'll see reflected in the panels this week and in the discussions that we have, that includes some really key opportunities to address some remaining challenges, as well as work toward a shared vision that we all need for the future. When we look to the next phase, the focus on our sites is increasingly shifted to long-term operations. A full suite of tank waste capabilities is in place at Savannah River, for example, where we're treating more tank wastewater than ever before. Saltstone Disposal Unit number 8, I love the way we name these things in EM, was approved for operation in June, meeting one of our annual priorities. This 4th mega volume disposal unit is going through testing now and will ultimately store 33 million gallons of treated tank waste. As you'll hear from Connie Floor later this morning, our team in Idaho has successfully launched operation of the Integrated Waste Treatment Unit. It's been a very long time and a very long journey, and no doubt the road ahead will be bumpy, but that is an incredibly important accomplishment for our colleagues in Idaho. I'll actually look forward to getting out to that site next week to mark this achievement with the workforce there, with the state of Idaho, with some of our key stakeholders in the Shoshone-Bannock tribe. Significant progress also continues at Hanford, where we're advancing toward a mobilization of tank waste and glass. And we know, as I mentioned earlier, progress sometimes comes with bumps in the road. We plan with that in mind, and we're prepared for that. During the heat up of the first melter, for example, we had to pause and make some adjustments to the heating elements. These adjustments were successful, enabling us to reach the point where we formed the first molten pool, bringing us one more step closer to operations for DFLAW. Over the past year, the Hanford team took advantage of longer than expected outages at Tisker to make improvements in the treatment system there. And we'll take it a step further when we use these lessons learned to develop future waste treatment capabilities at Hanford. This is what it will take at Hanford and at other sites, a deliberate step-by-step approach to very complex, challenging, first-of-a-kind capabilities. The stakes are high, and we're committed to getting it right. The progress we've made at Hanford and across EM sites extends well beyond the tank waste mission. Demolition work underway at Hanford, for example, will enable us to cocoon the final reactor along the Columbia River. I look forward to hearing about this work firsthand when I visit Hanford next week as well, and look forward to Congressman Newhouse joining us here at the cleanup workshop tomorrow. Great work is also underway in Nevada. I'm pleased to announce that our team there has completed demolition of 4 buildings that supported development and testing of nuclear rocket engines during the Cold War. Not only was this work completed safely, it was done ahead of schedule. And that's always a message that I like to deliver. The milestone sets the stage for completion of the Test Cell C complex and demolition of EMAD, the last remaining demolition and closure effort currently identified in our mission in Nevada. Some of the leaders who helped make this happen are here with us today, and want to say a special congratulations to the entire Nevada team that helped make this happen. As a matter of fact, I'll invite a couple of them up at the end of my remarks to introduce a short video to show you the work there. In New Mexico, we're making steady progress in drawing down inventories of legacy transuranic and other waste at Los Alamos for safe disposal. A new utility shaft we put in place at WIP has hit the target depth that will allow a connection to the underground later this year. It's part of a broader effort to improve working conditions, safety, and efficiency to support operations that are critical to our cleanup mission across the country. The level of progress that we're seeing is clear across the country. We're on track again to complete the vast majority of our annual priorities. Taking a cumulative look of the 107 sites that we started with, 107 have been cleaned and 15 left to go. The work that remains, though, is among our toughest work. As we prepare for that work, we do so with some very significant underlying challenges in mind. First, as Mayor Gary alluded to, all of us are facing a hiring and labor environment that is unlike any that we've seen before. We'll need thousands of new workers over the next 5 years to achieve our cleanup goals. Second, we know we accomplish more in places where we're all working in one direction towards a common goal, and we have yet to achieve that level of alignment program-wide. We're getting closer, and we're seeing results at sites like Savannah River and Oak Ridge and others. But we have more to do when it comes to engagement and opportunities that help us create that alignment that in turn translates into success. Third, there's no escaping the fact that we're operating in an era of a changing climate. EM must be prepared to deal with events like excessive heat and wildfires, particularly at our sites located in deserts, and more frequent and severe weather events. It also means EM must do our part to contribute to climate change solutions, operate in a sustainable manner, and promote a clean energy future. It's a global challenge that we must take into account when we look at opportunities for broad beneficial reuse of land that's no longer needed for cleanup. And of course, we have to plan and prioritize our work to fit within a realistic budget. These challenges might be viewed simply as potential issues with potential impacts that we may not fully realize for many years to come. I prefer to view them, however, in terms of opportunities. Opportunities we have today to mitigate impacts, solve problems, and keep progress moving forward. In order to continue making progress, we have to seize these opportunities, and we have to do it together. So that's why I want to spend a little bit of time this morning talking about these opportunities with you. Last week, we kicked off with a special session for EM's newest workers, or earlier this week actually, and we did it for a reason. We can't function in the cleanup program without people, and we need more people. In conjunction with FCOG, we recently completed a set of projections that look forward at our workforce needs at cleanup sites across the country. According to this analysis, we'll need thousands of operators, radiological technicians, electricians, project control specialists, project managers, mechanics, work planners. If you can think of a skill set that you need for a large, complicated operation, we're going to need that skill set in EM. With greater knowledge of the jobs and the skills that we need, we have an opportunity to help shape a better workforce development program to ensure that these programs can have the most impact and generate the best returns. The projections that we have are also helpful as we partner with local communities on how to best meet our future cleanup needs. In August, we met with the community around Los Alamos to go over projections for the area and discuss how that information can be used to target job programs and STEM initiatives tailored to community needs. It was the first of what I hope will be many similar meetings in communities across EM as we take opportunities to develop the pipeline that we need for the cleanup of the future. Communities are critical to developing that future workforce and to the success of our mission. And as we look to the future, it's important that we do so with the shared challenges and a shared purpose in mind. We need only look to the majority of the tank waste mission at Savannah River being done to know that we accomplish more in places where we have alignment on common goals for success. That's why we actively work to partner with local communities, consult with tribal nations, and prioritize stakeholder and regulator engagement to ensure inclusive and transparent communications. ECA, FCOG, and others have been instrumental in sharing lessons learned, advice, and they support us as we've ramped up engagement efforts across the country. It's why we work with Seth and Michael to host events like this that build open channels of communication and trust. Whether they cross international borders or state lines, these kinds of partnerships are a priority. You've heard me say in the past that success isn't possible without safety. The same can be said of engagement with our cleanup partners. In EM, we think of engagement in the same way that we've always thought of safety. It's not an afterthought. It's not just a priority, but it's a vital part of our mission. I encourage all of you to think about how you can do the same. Like safety, engagement is an area that requires constant vigilance, and it requires two-way communication. We're constantly looking for ways to proactively improve and develop these relationships. Our work in California is a great example. In working through some tough issues, DOE and the state share a commitment to forward progress at ETEC. We've yet to achieve alignment on every issue, but that hasn't prevented us from achieving a lot at the site there. We focused on things that we could get to agreement on, and as a result, all of the DOE-owned buildings at the site are down. And we continue to engage with the state on the path forward to address the contaminated soil. In New Mexico, we just wrapped up the second phase of listening sessions on the strategic vision being developed by Michael and his team at Los Alamos. It's a planning tool that's being developed with input from stakeholders, pueblos, and the public, and ultimately will help pave the way for future cleanup there. It's part of our focus on broader benefits to communities in New Mexico and across the EM enterprise. Across EM, we're recommitting to engagement as an essential part of our mission. As we work together, we also have an opportunity to strengthen communities and the nation as we contemplate how assets like land that are no longer needed for active cleanup can be put to beneficial use. Opportunities you'll hear more about this week with panels focused on NNSA and science missions as well as advanced energy development on EM lands. We know we can do it because we've seen it happen. Consider what we've achieved at Oak Ridge, for example. Projects at ETTP converted an old, dilapidated uranium enrichment complex into an industrial center, historic park, and conservation area that's full of promise. What was once a liability is now an asset, boosting the economy by attracting new business, clean energy development, and jobs to the region. Meanwhile, the cleanup at Oak Ridge National Lab in Y12 is supporting clean energy, national security, and research missions. Crews completed the first ever demolition of a reactor in the central campus at Oak Ridge National Lab last year, and just finished another a few days ago with the low-intensity test reactor now down. Had the opportunity to travel to Oak Ridge last month as we marked another success at the site by breaking ground on a new disposal facility. It's a capability that is pivotal to future efforts to reduce risk, advance cleanup, and provide land for other missions. Congressman Fleischman was on hand for the groundbreaking, and we're honored to have him with us here today as well. With the support of Chairman Fleischman and his subcommittee, accomplishments like these represent progress we can point to as we look to what's possible, not only in Oak Ridge, but in communities across the EM enterprise. We see the same potential at sites like Portsmouth. With our second largest land transfer complete there, we've returned 280 acres to the community for beneficial reuse and reindustrialization. Last year, we achieved the safe and successful teardown of the first gaseous diffusion building there. That team crossed the finish line for Building 326 3 months ahead of schedule, achieving a major skyline change at the site. Through transformational cleanup projects like this and land transfers, the site will contribute to the future of Piketon and Pike County for decades to come. These types of opportunities for the future are a driving force behind the manner in which we execute our mission at all of our sites. Under the leadership of Secretary Granholm and Deputy Secretary Turk, we're looking forward to the future in a broader way than ever before. As the Deputy Secretary will discuss later this morning, we're doing so with an eye towards national security priorities, climate change solutions, and a clean energy future. We have unique opportunities to lead by example to meet the challenges of today, including climate change, clean energy production, and energy resiliency. We're focused not only on getting the job done, but conducting our cleanup in a sustainable manner that benefits local communities, tribal nations, and efforts around the globe to solve the climate crisis. That includes shifting to new electric vehicles, conducting climate vulnerability assessments, and exploring clean energy production opportunities on EM land. Through Secretary Granholm's Clean Up to Clean Energy initiative, we're poised to build on EM's cleanup success stories in a new and exciting way. And I look forward actually to seeing some of you as we host our first site Clean Up to Clean Energy Information Day at Hanford on September the 22nd, late next week. It's only fitting to acknowledge this term was first coined by the community at Hanford, and the size of the site there leads itself to a whole lot of opportunity, and look forward to exploring those while I'm out there next week. Equally look forward to working with states, tribes, and communities across EM on additional ways to create synergy and provide support for these efforts. These opportunities for the future are made possible in large part by the significant investment Congress has made in the EM mission. Thanks to congressional leaders like Senator Murray, Congressman Fleischman, Congresswoman Lee, Congressman Newhouse, and many others, EM has benefited from substantial investment in federal resources. Congress works to appropriate and prioritize limited federal resources. In turn, EM takes seriously our responsibility to be good stewards of those finite resources. We do the most we can with what we have in order to do the right thing for the communities that have been impacted by the environmental legacy of the past. It's not realistic, though, to expect our budget to increase dramatically year after year after year. And it wouldn't be prudent for us to plan with that expectation in mind. We're ensuring our resources are focused on our most urgent risks, and we're taking an integrated and corporate approach to prioritizing work at our remaining sites. We're sharing best practices and accomplishments and lessons learned from challenges across the complex, enhancing communication and collaboration, and operating in an environment of openness and transparency. We're making targeted R&D investments in areas with high rates of return, taking a hard look at options that can accelerate cleanup. We have a responsibility to evaluate treatment and disposal options that can shave decades off current schedules, reduce our project risks, add flexibility, and literally save billions of dollars without sacrificing safety or the effectiveness of the cleanup work. We have a responsibility to not only develop these options, but to collaborate with regulators on ways they can be deployed and on ways that cleanup plans can be updated to reflect the best science that we have today. A very good example of this is our work with the state of Washington on the testbed initiative. This will demonstrate additional options that involve treating 2,000 gallons of tank waste at Hanford and sending it to WCS and Energy Solutions for grouting and disposal. By adding options that are different from the 2017 demonstration, we'll end up with valuable information about 3 different shipping configurations and 2 different commercial disposal capabilities. The National Academies of Science and a national lab-led team recently issued a final analysis of a years-long look at options to address Hanford's supplemental low-activity waste. TBI is consistent with those recommendations, and it enables us to look at multiple pathways for off-site low-activity immobilization and grout and disposal. With decades to go, there's value in pursuing multiple pathways to ensure resiliency, leverage lessons learned, increase the program's flexibility, and deploy new technologies as our mission progresses. These objectives are reflected in our efforts to advance this initiative and in other initiatives across our sites. Technology development is also focused on innovative environmental monitoring systems to provide long-term protection, legacy soil, and groundwater contamination sites. A collaboration of national laboratories, universities, industry, and EM led to a more energy efficient and sustainable approach to protecting groundwater from the spread of hazardous chemicals. This approach has been successfully applied at the Savannah River site, saving limited resources and shaving years off the cleanup schedule. EM also collaborates with our partners across the world on R&D priorities that have cross-cutting benefits for all of our shared programs. The international collaboration provides valuable opportunities to exchange technical research and items from and learn from our shared challenges. I was in Japan a few weeks ago at the annual Forum on Fukushima cleanup efforts. DOE has supported this important event in the past, but it was my first time participating. Over the years, EM collaboration with Japan has led to significant advances in our cleanup mission here in the US. One example of this is the cesium extraction system that was used in the cleanup of the Fukushima Daiichi plant, and it's been adapted to double the production rates in tank waste treatment at Savannah River site. Later, that same technology was further adapted to enable us to begin treating tank waste at Hanford. So this trip was a great opportunity for me to discuss some of our shared challenges, the benefits that we see from innovation, and additional opportunities that we have in the future for collaboration. Earlier this summer, I also made it to France to tour the Eranos-Le Hague site and CEA's vitrification research facilities. It was a great opportunity to learn more about how France disposes of nuclear waste and evaluate their vitrification capabilities. Our friends from the UK recently were gracious enough to host a trilateral workshop in London that provided a firsthand look at Sellafield and an opportunity to share best practices on stakeholder engagement. And in just a few minutes, our friends from Canada will join me in signing an agreement that speaks to our longstanding partnership on nuclear waste management. Fred DeMarker, thank you for being here with us today. Look forward to our ceremony in a minute. Before moving on to that, though, I want to thank all of you for being a part of the workshop this year. We have, as I mentioned earlier, our highest turnout rate. I think that speaks to the great work that's getting done across the sites in the cleanup program and to the broader approach that we're taking to our mission. Many of you have been a part of the EM mission for decades. I appreciate your service. Others are just getting started in your journey with EM, bringing fresh energy and new ideas to the table. It's my hope that all of you come away this week with a better sense of the challenges we're facing, the opportunities we have to address them, and the important role that each of you plays in the success of our shared mission. Looking 10 years down the road, EM will have completed work at 4 more sites, accelerated efforts to address our largest environmental liability, completed key infrastructure upgrades, and changed the skyline at many of our sites. We're working towards these environmental cleanup priorities. We're doing it with an eye towards opportunities that will ensure long-term cleanup progress and enable broader benefits for communities and the tribes who supported our nation for so many decades. Thank you to all of you here. And with that, I want to ask Rob and John, if they're here, to join me and introduce a video of our recent progress that we made at Nevada.
Thank you. Thanks, Ike, for the opportunity to highlight some of the work at Nevada. I'm Rob Balick. I'm the program manager for environmental work out in Nevada. And the video we're going to show today highlights one of the last remaining facilities we have. As Ike mentioned, we are getting close to the end of our work. We've addressed over 2,000 sites in Nevada, or approximately 2,000 sites in Nevada. And we're down to really a handful, including the test cell C work, EMAD work, which is upcoming in the next few years, and one remaining groundwater area. So although we're getting very close and can see the end in sight, we do have a couple of challenges left. And we couldn't have got to this point without all the support we've had from our partners on the NNSA site we're operating on, our community stakeholders, our regulators, NDEP, and of course our contractors. And so with that, let me introduce John DeRapp. He joined us about a year ago, and he is the program manager for Navarro Research and Engineering, our prime contractor in Nevada, and is leading us through this work and the accomplishment of the rest of our goals in Nevada. John?
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Ike, for the opportunity. This is an honor to be up here to share with you some of the work going on out in Nevada and our recent successes. As Rob said, I joined the Navarro team about 11 months ago, and when I got there, we had what I'll call a skeleton D4 organization. So my first task was to get out on the recruiting trail, which is always difficult, as you know, in today's market. But fortunately, I was able to acquire some talented, experienced D4 individuals from both the commercial and the DOE world, along with a lot of new talent that we brought in with the goal to mentor them over the next few years. So as many of us hit that retirement age, we can hand the torch off. Secondly, we worked hard to build our infrastructure to prepare for this work, including our safety posture and culture. And the video I'm about to show, we kicked this work off in the late spring this year. And go ahead and hit the play on that, and then I'll just summarize after the video's done.
Months of planning and preparation transitioned to action as crews from the U.S. Department of Energy Environmental Management Nevada program began demolition of 4 buildings at Area 25 of the Nevada National Security Sites. The buildings are located at the Test Cell C facility and were recognized in the Environmental Management CY23 mission and priorities. Both Test Cell C, or TCC, and the Engine Maintenance Assembly and Disassembly Facility, also known as EMAD, were part of the now inactive Nuclear Rocket Development Station, or NRDS. The NRDS supported the development and testing of nuclear rocket engines from 1957 until 1973.
All Kiwi power tests took place at the Nuclear Rocket Development Station at Jackass Flats, Nevada. Here in the desert, scientists and engineers checked the actual performance at various power levels and for various time periods.
This jointly administered effort was carried out between the Atomic Energy Commission, predecessor to the Department of Energy, and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Decades later, the United States Department of Energy's Environmental Management Nevada program is tasked with demolishing and disposing of these sites. Prior to the beginning of demolition, the buildings were radiologically surveyed and deactivated with the removal of any identified hazardous components such as asbestos and liquids like oil and hydraulic fluid. Additionally, perlite, used as insulation in the 4 dewars that stored hydrogen, was also carefully removed and packaged. Every precaution is taken to perform the work and package the debris safely and securely. Dust suppression is handled with water, and spotters were in place for the vehicle operators. The rest of the building debris you're seeing here is considered industrial waste. And before a truck is released from the work site to head for disposal, the load is tarped and the truck is checked for any signs of radioactivity, as is the bucket of the excavator. The waste will stay on the NNSS in Nevada, transported to the U-10C landfill. Despite extreme summer desert conditions, the EM Nevada program stayed on task, accomplishing planned objectives ahead of schedule. We leave you today with some additional views of the work completed at TCC.
So as Ike mentioned, this work that we completed here just recently was very important, and I'm proud of the team. It was one of DOE headquarters calendar year 23 goals to get the 4 buildings at Test Cell C knocked down. So we accomplished that ahead of schedule and got a lot of work to do going forward to finish up this facility and attack EMAD, which is a larger facility there. But our goal is to keep the momentum going and try and knock out the liability there at Nevada as soon as possible so they can take that off the list. And I'm proud of the team and what we've accomplished. One last thing I want to mention, and something that I know is very important. Navarro has made a really strong effort to support the STEM initiatives. And in Nevada, we've donated over $20,000 to the local schools in support of that. And I know corporate intends to